Shooting the Ish. All right, this is Chris and Brian and George. New guest George, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Brian?
Doing great. Thank goodness this week is over.
Yes, we are shooting the Ish. We've been talking a lot about movies, but the big buzz this week was, I guess, news in a lot of assets really overshadowed movies, and maybe it's just when a buzz starts building, like there is a big news story, people start watching the news, so then story B becomes more relevant than anything else. Like, once you start going down a certain path, people get into it and start seeing other news stories. So news was the big thing this week. You guys want to get into some of this?
I mean, I'm ready if you guys are.
After you.
Yeah. Well, okay, there was a couple things. The biggest one, of course, was the Zimmerman Martin decision,
Right.
and there was also a death, Hollywood death, and some other fun news. Not other fun news, but there was also fun news. What did you guys want to get into the Zimmerman thing?
I think Brian should speak first on that one.
Really? You want me to speak on this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't have to, get into why, but I mean, it's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it just reinforces certain hidden stereotypes. Almost that it's okay to basically shoot at or gun down these black juvenile delinquents who, in a way, pose a threat to society. In these people's opinions. You would think that, with the jury made up of 6 women who were all, mothers, you would think that, or at least that I was assuming that they were going to try to put themselves in Trayvon Martin's mother's shoes, in the sense that, this is their child who was gunned down. But somehow the defense was able to present in their testimony, they made Trayvon look like a thug and cast reasonable doubt in their decision making, which took 18 hours to reach a verdict. And to me, I thought that was, ridiculous that it took that long for them to put all the evidence together and hear all the arguments and let this individual go free for now.
Yeah, but sometimes verdicts take a long time. Was that too short, too long? You think that was too long?
I thought it was just too long, but I mean, I know this is, I mean, the judicial system, is entirely different. It's not like a game show where, it's not like Family Double Dare where you're on the clock or something like that. So it was a weird pill, but just a weird pill to swallow. That's
when this story first broke, I completely disregarded it because of a couple of reasons. One, it seemed like from the beginning that this was like a media circus, and it felt like this was being presented to people in a certain way that might not be exactly what happened in the situation, and that this was going to be used to be a divisive argument. And my whole thing was, does this country need a divisive argument? And if there is a divisive argument to be had, should we be taking an example of a situation that happened in Florida, which we'll get into, as a moral compass for what's going on in the rest of the country? I mean, Florida is for people who haven't spent time there, there's a lot of people who consider Florida a wasteland, not part of the regular America. You know what I'm saying?
Right. In other words, it should go the way of Atlantis at this point.
Well, it will soon. Yeah, if global warming.
Not soon enough to most people.
But the thing is, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on down there. People who move there sometimes never come back in a way.
Well, Miami's fun, but the rest of Florida stinks.
Right.
Florida's where American values and morals go to die.
and most Jews.
Why you gotta be so technical for, man?
it was just very strange to me.
It is, however, convenient that the guy, is Jewish or, has a father who is Jewish.
It was very, very bizarre to me how this was a situation that happened between two people that
could have been avoided.
Well, the situation itself was about preconceived notions. If you want to look at it from that angle, these were two individual people in an individual conflict, but both parties had preconceived notions about the other, based on whatever. But as a response, the lesson didn't seem to be learned of... The response that was overwhelming was an outcry of people who took stances that were also based on preconceived notions. So it was like, shit, we're living in like the information age. Are people still being worked by like news media? That like news media makes a living off of stirring shit up, like,
right?
You know,
well,
it was kind of like everyone had an opinion on this case, but did this individual situation really warrant all those opinions, and was this really enough of a symbol? Was this strong enough of a symbol to be used as a cause?
I felt like, it was just, the case was very convenient for the media to latch onto, because, you had a clear, it was a story where, good and evil was presented and they can spin it any which way they could, the right and the left.
Right.
Here it is, you had, if you recall, those little news, bites, how they presented Treyvon as almost angelic in a way. Like when you see like pictures of him when he was younger. And then you have juxtaposed, the mugshots of George Zimmerman, posted when he looks like, Chaz Bono. And,
that's true.
And then
Chaz Bono with a tan.
And I think that guy deserves a special Oscar for being able to lose weight and gain weight in
yeah, every picture I saw of this guy is like a different guy.
Well, he's obviously suffering from his entire life, so you can't blame the guy who has an addiction to food for killing a human being. Obviously,
maybe he was hungry. Maybe
that's a great excuse.
He could have been a cannibal, and he needed some dark meat for his new casserole.
Yeah, sure. No, come on. The guy is He's a Puerto Rican, Jewish individual trying to find his place in the world, and the series of home robberies going on around him. He decides to join, the neighborhood watch because he feels like he can make a difference. And I'm quite sure he's probably pissed off at the world. And, little Trayvon Martin wasn't really that little. I'm just saying, like, he was, in his line of sight, and, he just gave him a good reason to go after him. Now, you guys know that, he called 911. And, the police at the time told him not to follow Trayvon, and yet he still decided to go. And
they have 911 in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Florida it's 912.
No.
Oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever. But anyhow, they told him not to follow the kid, and he still followed the kid. And obviously Trayvon saw him, tracking him, and I'm going to assume that Trayvon, wanted to confront him, wanted to know why he was following him. And I think instead of, George telling him that I'm with Neighborhood Watch and, I got a piece on me, don't mess with me, he basically, wanted to play cowboy and wanted to know why the hell are you walking around here. So basically, both individuals were asking questions that weren't getting answered, and, I think that led to the escalation. And led to Trayvon's demise.
Well, there's a lot of different ways this could have been handled, but I don't think that. And I think that's a great. What you just said, I think, is a great lesson to be learned. But I don't think the news presented an argument in that way, and I don't think anyone learned that lesson. I think the exact wrong lesson was learned by many people.
Right. There was no lesson to be learned here. Every news media outlet tried to spin it their own way. Basically, it was a case of a little punk kid walking around where he shouldn't have been walking around.
Allegedly, come on.
Yeah, whatever you want to think of it. and basically Paul Blart Mall cop who was too retarded to join the police force, walking around with a gun he shouldn't have had. So you put the two together, and it's gonna be a volcano exploding.
Now, does these and again, I know, and I'm sounding stereotypical, but these were not only those characters, if we're going to characterize them, but they were also those characters existing in Florida. Should the whole country have taken that individual situation that happened between those two characters in that location and used that to as like a point of argument?
Yeah, right. Well,
and here's the other thing. You know, in terms of the news and how they present things, wasn't the whole buzz about Ariel Castro getting busted with those girls? Wasn't the lesson that the news kept saying, spinning, was the lesson is always watch your neighborhood, always check out a suspicious character. And now what are they saying 2 months later? And once Ariel Castro gets sentenced, they're going to be saying the exact opposite thing. Remember, the lesson here was always watch that neighborhood.
I know. I mean, if you go by that rule, I'm in Hollywood. I'm going to think everyone's a killer or a rapist or a pedophile. So you can't really follow that logic. I mean, Florida's a different story. They have the stand your ground thing. But I mean, if you're not a cop, you shouldn't be walking around interrogating people. You're asking for trouble.
Right.
Why do people go to Florida?
And I feel like, you know, if George had, you know, told...
Who's George, man? What are you on the first name basis with this guy?
If Zimmerman...
You're friends with him?
I'm sorry, George. I'm sorry, I don't want to get you confused.
He's offended because his name is George.
Yes, I'm very offended. There's one George in this conversation, and there's another guy. There's George Zimmerman on the other side of America. His name is Zimmerman. My name is George.
Yeah,
not to be confused with George.
We're not even going to get into a lasting basis. So anyway, if Zimmerman had, you know, told Treyvon who he was with and flashed the side piece, 99.9% of that time, if it were any black man or black child, for that matter, he would have backed off easily.
That's another preconceived notion, though. Chris is right. You mean to tell me if a pudgy-looking guy who obviously looks like a butch lesbian walked up to a black kid and said, hey, I'm the neighborhood watch captain. I have a gun. Back off. The guy's going to run away. He's going to say, fuck you.
Not back off. Like, just don't mess with me. You didn't have to say back off. Just don't mess with me. I just want to know why are you walking around? Hey, Brian, could you get a little closer to your mic? Yeah. Is this good? Yeah, that's good. I'm just saying, you know, if Zimmerman acted properly, I don't think, you know, we would be where we are today. And he wouldn't be a marked man as of right now. Well, that's the other, you know, even though he's not guilty, you know, make no mistake of it, you know. Well, yeah, let's get into that. Yes. Same thing with the, and let's not take the race thing into consideration, but same thing with the OJ trial in terms of someone getting off who people think shouldn't have. You know, you think they're getting off, but really their lives very much different after this. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was that the prosecutor was stupid to go for murder. The way I understand it is that basically the prosecutor put all their poker chips in to go full on for murder. In another state, if there was another state or another court, they would have just went for manslaughter and got it. 7 to 10 years or something like this. But all the hype. It was all the hype. It was all the hype, and the prosecutor bought the hype, and that's no one's fault but the prosecutors, for at least for that level. Like you can't judge the jury because look, whoever had a preconceived notion, had the courts worked properly, which hope they do, but again, it's Florida. Had the courts done jury duty selection properly, they would have weeded out anyone who had preconceived notions. So you can't judge the race of anyone in this situation, or you are also a victim of falling into those preconceived notions. So if you're crowing about changing preconceived notions, do you understand how I feel like this argument is completely irrelevant? Or relevant, give or take. Yeah, I guess it depends on your preconceived notion. This is like, it was cool. It's like listen. I'm sure that, you know, both counselors, you know, they weeded out who they wanted in that jury. I just find it weird that instead of 12, they decided to go with 6, and it's all women. I'm like, what? Like, a man doesn't have, like, you know, a perspective on a case like this? Like, you know, what? Were they afraid that he's going to easily sway the remaining jurors on that?
I don't think they're allowed. I think it's kind of.
I
think it might have just been random selection that worked out this way. Now, who knows?
Yeah, this story.
Because look, even if you're in the court, you can't then be selecting who you want based on this and that and the other thing. Now, could it have happened? Sure, but they're not supposed to. I guess I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think that had the situation as it exists, as I understand it, is that the prosecution went for too much and then was not able to prove murder, and then at that point manslaughter was off the table.
Well, that's why this story was juicy, because if it was just for manslaughter, then people could understand that, but then it also wouldn't get any headlines. But if someone was defending themselves supposedly and killed someone supposedly by accident, whoever knows what the story is.
And no one knows.
And then you're charged with first-degree murder without a supposed intent of doing it, then that's the beefy part. That's why everybody picked it up. That's why everybody wanted to know.
And that's the other thing. You can't... manslaughter is a crime of passion, where murder is a premeditated crime. There's no evidence to suggest that Zimmerman knew who this person was and woke up and said, "Today's the day I'm going to get them."
Right.
He was gonna get that sucker.
Yeah, he was gonna get, he definitely was gonna get that sucker, and he definitely did get that sucker.
Well, okay, one final thing, just in terms of character, because a lot of people are saying, applying, you know, even though it is comical that he is a Hispanic / Jewish dude, but everyone's just giving him the label white guy. But it is.
After he shot Treyvon, he's the white guy.
Yeah, he's the non-black dude, dude,
the non-Hispanic dude. Don't worry, he'll pass. He'll definitely. He's with us now, you know.
Well, here's the thing. Me and George were talking. We grew up with someone who. Let's just look at character. There are people that I know of all different races that have a fascination with guns, gangs, or military, which means they want to be part of a team. They have a little bit of a fascination with arms. I'm not saying I know Zimmerman, but there's those people that bring a weapon to a fight unnecessarily and then get the weapon used against them.
Yeah.
And I kind of see, like, a guy like Zimmerman, like, I could kind of almost see, like, that putsy kid from the neighborhood that was like, wow, you did a stupid thing. It wasn't, you're just an idiot, you know? So. Right.
And I didn't know Neighborhood Watch were allowed to, you know, carry firearms, you know?
Well, there's all sorts of weird laws down there. And down there, you're allowed to have a gun in your glove box. So keep that in mind if you ever get into road rage driving through that area.
Oh, that's great.
So, have you also noticed that whoever goes to Florida, their accent changes, even if they're an older person? Does that happen anywhere else? Does that happen anywhere else in the world?
I haven't been to Florida in a while, so I would hardly notice.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to immigrants who immigrated any time after they were teenagers to their country, they still have their home accent pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can't say.
This is a strange area. I don't think that was presented. I don't think the fact that this was Florida was presented. But come on, whenever you hear a weird story and then you hear it took place in Florida, you're like, yeah, I get it. And I used to live there. Sorry if anyone's offended from Florida. There's some weird stuff that goes on there. I used to live there personally.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Florida's a crooked town. I mean, crooked state. So.
Look, I mean, come on. You got alligators. An alligator could have come up and chomped both of them. What were the alligators' preconceived notions?
That's what should have happened.
All right. I guess we're done with this topic, huh?
Well, the only thing. All right, I'll leave with a final note. You know, with this topic, I'm just curious as to what, you know, the federal government is going to do in terms of what they're going to get on Zimmerman when it was already said that race was not an issue. It's going to be tough to prove in the federal court for the most part, from what I've been hearing recently.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to watch as this story unfolds.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it would be hard. It would be another case that would be a waste of time, a waste of anyone's anger and emotions and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate. A young man died. I don't know what else to say.
And
they might have a chance at the civil suit, but keep in mind, if you lose a civil suit, from what I understand, is that the people have to pay Zimmerman's lawyer his legal fees if they lose the civil suit. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, I have imagined that. Apparently, it's the people who were funding the criminal suit were I think it was like a company that makes Scotch tissue or something like that, or one of those companies. So he was already well taken care of. So.
It's kind of crazy that, these two people whose lives intersected for 10 minutes, and one of them's not even around to understand the weight of it, are now... This story just seems way blown out of proportion. It doesn't seem like we need a divisive argument in this country at that point, and I think people need to start thinking about stuff like that. If we're going to keep letting ourselves be divided over racial stuff, then the future doesn't look too bright. Anyway,
race will always be an issue, so there's nothing you, I, or Brian can do about it.
All right, that's a depressing topic. Let's get into some. Well, okay, let's get into more depressing.
I could use a drink after that.
There was one more depressing. All right, before the one more depressing topic, Sharknado 2 was announced. They're gonna make a Sharknado 2.
Is it official?
I think it's pretty official.
Right, and they're going to place it in the Big Apple, last time I heard.
So then the sharks could go straight into a skyscraper.
Yeah.
That'll bring back excellent memories.
Have any of you guys seen anything on Sharknado 1 yet?
Just the trailer, and that was it for me. I mean, I thought I saw enough.
Everyone's talking about the Sharknado. It's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah. I think the most, from what I've read, I haven't seen it. There was an encore on last night. I was studying, so I couldn't, unfortunately, devote my time to watching Sharknado. But
I guess that's why I stopped going to school.
When I was reading various reviews of it, and basically Twitter exploded when this thing came out. So the most unrealistic thing about it, believe it or not, the most unrealistic thing is how people in the movie got from the Valley to Santa Monica in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
In a Sharknado.
That was the big unbelievable part.
Believe it or not, I think I will see a Sharknado in Hollywood before I can make it from the Valley to Venice in 10 minutes. I believe I will see a shark flying in the air before that can ever happen. And I think anyone that has spent enough time in Los Angeles can understand that as well, because I couldn't have understood it either before I lived here. But that definitely is the most unrealistic thing in that movie. As far as flying sharks...
Even if Sharknadoes existed in LA, you'd have still a better chance of being injured by a terrible driver in Los Angeles than a Sharknado.
Yeah.
So basically, I have a better chance of jumping off the roof and landing on the moon than winning the lotto. I understand. Okay.
The
chances are about the same.
I did hear. Do you want to hear a spoiler of one scene of Sharknado towards the end that is completely ridiculous?
Shoot.
Yes.
There is, from what I understand, there is a scene in Sharknado 1 where, because the second one will be out next week, but there's a scene in the first one. There's a scene in the first one where the shark eats a girl, and a guy jumps straight into the shark's mouth with a chainsaw.
Mm.
But somehow the girl survives, and I think the shark gets destroyed by the chainsaw.
Actually, I also read about that spoiler.
Stupid. But you know what? It's that thing. It's so stupid that everyone can laugh at it. But everyone's passing it along. It's such an easy thing. It's kind of like, anyone you pass that to will be like, oh my god, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those movies. It's so bad, it's kind of good.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so like there's been various movies.
In this case, it's so bad that it's obviously bad, and the fact it just sounds like an idea that some little kid actually came up with. I really thought Sharktopus would be enough. I thought that would be the template.
Well, that was a movie also. Sharktopus.
Yes,
was a movie?
that was a movie also. Sharktopus. I mean, I thought that was that would be it.
Maybe they should do a James Bond called Sharktopussy.
I think I've encountered a few Sharktopussies out here in Los Angeles.
Tell us your sob story, please.
Wait a second. Brian, speak up a little if you can. Okay. We have a couple deep topics. We could jump into some deep tracks, but let's get, I guess, one or two quick news things out of the way. I guess one more good thing is that Stacy Keibler's single.
Oh, my chances have increased greatly now.
Yeah,
are you guys going to go after her?
Yeah.
From one George to another.
Well, George, you live in Hollywood. Are you going to go after Stacy Keibler?
I saw her on one of those shows yesterday at work. Was it The View, maybe, or something like that?
I just saw her on something from Huffington Post, and when me and Brian were doing the audio test before you jumped on, Brian was talking to me for like 30 seconds, and I wasn't listening to him at all.
I mean, Brian's used to that, so that's not a big deal. But as far as Stacy Keibler...
Brian on the inside, thanks.
You always will. As far as Stacy Keibler is concerned, this is like the best thing that could have happened for her career, because,
what's that?
This is the best thing that could have happened for her career. I just heard a loud noise in the background.
Don't worry about that.
So as far as Stacy Keibler, this is the best thing that could have ever happened for her career, because she used to be a wrestler. Allow me to get to that, you impatient man. She used to be a wrestler, whatever. We knew her because we were wrestling fans. Then she left that, whatever. She became an FHM model and all that kind of stuff. So she started gaining notoriety. Then she started dating George Clooney. George Clooney's an international celebrity. Everybody knows him. And George Clooney bangs hundreds of chicks. So she was just going to fall in line. Now she's taking this breakup and promoting herself, or her people are very smart. Be like, oh my God, another woman that George Clooney broke up with, blah, 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 sob story, this and that. And she's just going on every talk show, everything, and just pushing herself. So now she's going to be much more in everyone's mindset than before.
She's a very smart woman, very beautiful woman. The one thing the one thing in line of what you're saying with another girl that George Clooney broke up with, usually he breaks up with those girls pretty quick. Like, from what they're putting out there, well, of course, not only were they together for a long time, but she may have been the one to end it. At least that's what's being put out there.
Oh, you never know. You'll never know what goes on.
She said she wants to have kids or something. But who knows what the case is, but the fact, you're right, that she's handling herself so poised really makes her, come out of this pretty well.
It makes perfect sense. Like, I plan on having women use me to get famous at some point in my career as well.
But, dude, it's George Clooney, though. He's been through that game so many times that if that was the case, he could have chucked her out.
But do you think he cares?
That really says something to not only how, well, you could say it's because she's attractive, but she's also probably very mentally stimulating for George Clooney to stay with this girl for that long.
She is a hard 10. She is a hard 10. George Clooney knows he's not going to marry this chick, so he's like, all right, let's just go for the ride, see how long it lasts. When it's time to get off, it's time to get off. Simple. I don't blame him. I'd do the same thing.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Brian? You don't think about it. All right, next topic.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I guess the last news story in terms of entertainment news is the Glee stuff. The guy from Glee died. I don't know much about this. I think, George, you might know more about this.
Yeah, apparently one of the guys on Glee, I'm not familiar with the show. One of my friends is actually a stand-in for it, which is pretty cool because he doesn't do anything and he makes decent money.
Well, that sounds like a lot of people in L.A.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm jealous.
I hope one day I can do nothing and make a lot of money, too. Right now, I do a lot and make no money. But he was found dead in a hotel room. He was 31 years old. I don't even know the guy's name, to be honest with you. I'm not familiar with the show. Okay, there we go. Corey Montes. Right. Okay. He was found dead in a hotel room, and they didn't know at first what it was. But it was a heroin overdose, I'm assuming?
It was a heroin mixed with alcohol.
Heroin and alcohol? Okay.
Yes.
So
heroin mixed with heroin, not heroin mixed with alcohol before.
Like that's what was in his system.
Yeah. Okay.
It was in his system, so. And it led to a deadly combination, and it caused respiratory problems, and he couldn't breathe, and basically he suffocated. Basically.
I mean, I think you can pretty much blame the heroin alone, and not necessarily the alcohol combined with the heroin. Like, all right, kids, you can do the heroin, but just be careful. Don't have any beers. Don't have any beers or vodka with that heroin, because you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. Each one separately, have at it.
So you're saying you blame it on the heroin?
You stole my joke. I hate you.
Oh my God.
That was an easy one.
I know.
Both of you should hug each other and then simultaneously fall off.
I'm not mad at him. I'm just saying he just stole my joke. That's all.
So is Glee, like, wow, I was kind of surprised and taken back by all this. Like, Glee is really that big of a show, huh?
It's a phenomenon, unfortunately.
It's kind of like a goof thing, and then this came out. I'm like, is everyone really going crazy over someone who died as a cast member of? Not that it's. I'm not saying that his death should be memorialized.
The thing is that he's one of the bigger characters on that show.
I see.
So that's why it's so shocking to the masses who actually follow.
That's something. Mm-hmm.
Glee is popular because I'm not into it, but I have seen a handful of episodes. Basically, it's a musical. It's a new musical in your house every week for free. That's why people love it. With famous music numbers, they're taking celebrities' music and putting a score to it and dancing around and all that crap, and with a storyline behind it. So I understand why people like it, because they don't have to go out to the theater or wherever they might be to watch a musical. They get one every week in their house for free, and people go crazy over that stuff. So that's why it's so popular throughout America.
Which reminds me, I think they had like a Glee concert that was in theaters, not too long ago. I think it was also in 3D, if I'm not mistaken, or IMAX or one of the.
You paid for the 3D. You paid for the 3D.
No, I didn't, but I saw the advertisement.
No, he snuck in.
Yeah, you know me. I'm too cheap to pay for that.
Snuck in, stole the glasses out of the waste bin, and
it was so worth it. I look cool with them glasses. End of discussion.
Okay. I guess George, you're in Hollywood. That's, I guess, going to be something to deal with over the years, being an actor in Hollywood and dealing with depression and people who make a living on staying up, but behind the curtains might be pretty depressed. And I don't know if you've seen any of that so far.
That's why I wear my depression on my sleeve.
Okay.
Everybody knows it. I don't hide it and let it consume me. I put it out on the table. I set the table with my depression. I say, anyone want a slice? No, I mean, everybody comes out here because they want to be famous. And, of course, it's just like hitting the lotto. Some people hit it, but the majority don't.
Well, it's true what you're saying, though. I guess, it might cause you to be typecast, but at the same time, I guess it's better to be yourself than to...
be typecast anyway.
Well, if George is acting like this, they're going to cast him as a grumpy East Coaster in no time.
Well, I'm an actor. It doesn't matter what my personality's like.
Right. What I'm saying, though, is there's a lot of people in Hollywood that don't want to say or do the wrong thing because they always feel like they're on an audition. And that could certainly lead to depression if there's critical moments where you're not being true to yourself. And it's very easy to do when you feel alone in a big city full of people who are kind of playing a game.
That's the difference with LA. New York is 10 times of a bigger city, people-wise, and as far as commotion is concerned, than LA or any other city will ever be. But you don't feel alone there. Here, there's a solidarity to being in this city that can easily get to you if you're not strong enough or have
you mean like
people around
like you feel isolated? Like
yeah, absolutely. This blood-sucking town, absolutely.
That's why I live in Venice Beach and not Hollywood, California.
Yeah.
And rest assured, folks, Chris is not getting paid to advertise about Venice Beach. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, Venice Beach is actually where the Hollywood folks get their heroin from.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's be. Sorry, everyone's dead. Sorry, everyone's dead. Bad news for everyone. It was a rough week of bad news, but that's what attracts people.
And if you think that was bad, did you hear about different cities going bankrupt?
What?
Detroit,
Chicago, and I think Philadelphia.
Chicago's murder problem is ridiculous.
I know.
All three cities? I only heard about Detroit yesterday. So Philadelphia and Chicago are also filing for Chapter 9 protection. They're filing for.
Oh, nice. I might get a chance to buy that Rocky statue off Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but I mean, this is just, hearsay. I mean, I know, like, in the news they were talking about Detroit mainly, but I could have sworn I heard about, like, 2 other cities that were filed for bankruptcy.
If you think about it, that's not so terrible when you have entire countries such as Greece, where I'm from, Spain, Italy, and they're basically dying. Yeah. It's not that bad when you have individual states going bankrupt, but when you have entire countries, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
how's your country, Brian? How's Jamaica doing? They're still smoking weed down there?
Hey, business is booming last time I checked.
Yeah, probably.
Get in on it.
Yeah, man.
And I'm a mutt, so I guess my home is the pound.
Yeah.
Just don't get gassed.
I know. It's hard when you're in a dog fight. You gotta make sure your ear doesn't get chewed on, so no one wants to buy you.
Right, exactly.
You gotta keep being cute and wagging your tail, and it's discouraging, but
keep the freckles. Keep the freckles.
Only dog with freckles in that damn pound.
Makes you unique.
The other dogs are like, "Are you part Irish?" Speaking of, I guess, the economically depressed area, which is that northern middle region of the country.
Midwest, roughly.
Yeah. Me and George actually met up the other day in Santa Monica and saw the East. Did you hear about the East at all?
No, I haven't. What is that?
Oh, very
God.
Good.
The East is a very it's not a very independent film. It's very well shot.
It's Fox Searchlight.
Yeah, it has the feel of an indie movie because it's very serious and there's no real comedic relief. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the story or the plot, there's a woman who's like an FBI agent who infiltrates. I guess she infiltrates. She works. First of all, it's not FBI. She works for like a private intelligence firm, and their job is to infiltrate like terrorist cells or stuff like that. So they could go anywhere in the world, but this was a homegrown terrorist cell that was against major pharmaceutical companies that were like poisoning the earth by natural gas drilling and stuff like that, kind of like what we were talking about with Gasland last week.
Mm-hmm.
And this eco-terrorist group will go around and like do things like go to a pharmaceutical company who has a drug that's hurting people and put it in their champagne. So when everyone toasts to the drug being sold on a massive scale, they'll all get sick with the disease that people are getting from the certain drug. And they'll do things like if there's an oil guy, they'll put like tar in his house when he's sleeping and stuff like that. So it was a very good. I don't know if this appeals to you at all, but the movie was extremely well done. It was very good.
Was there any big names in there?
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård was in it.
Oh, okay.
What's her name from Juno, the girl?
Ellen Page was in it.
Ellen Page was in it.
It's very easy to follow that theme of like protect the earth against the evil corporation. So I'm surprised it didn't have more of a mass appeal. It's
been out for a while, actually.
But you gotta understand, this is not the 1970s. What I mean by that,
Yeah.
Well, what I mean by it is like, in the 70s, in terms of Hollywood, anything went. It's, the studio execs pretty much didn't know what people wanted to see. So they were taking whatever stories they could find, and then they would just like produce it. They were like, all right, that's fine. Like a story like this would definitely, would catch a buzz like back in the day. Whereas today, where they pretty much have an idea in terms of like, who their audience is and what the audience would like, maybe not so much, because this story that you just told me is on a smaller scale. I mean, it's a big scale, but it's told on a smaller scale. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just, it's just the nature of the beast for the most part.
One good thing, story structure wise, that it did very good was the first minute was very graphic. That's when they put the tar into one of the executives' like houses, and you see the tar dripping out of the central air system. So it had that, have a good first minute, and then you'll be looped in, and then you won't mind a couple of minutes of exposition because you were just thinking like, what the hell did I just see?
Right.
Yeah, basically a bunch of masked guys breaking and entering, and then vandalizing something, and right away, if you have any sense of mischief in you, you're like, ooh, what's happening here?
A lot of independent filmmakers don't realize to do that, or don't think it's necessary to build the story, but in the beginning, you would have the best characters on earth, but on first presentation, anyone's going to view a stranger as a dickhead. And especially if that stranger is not a Hollywood star that you already associate with in some way, it's just an outsider to your group. So there's no way for you to feel anything for them until the story gets rolling. But if you have a good first minute, that's something action and exciting and crazy moment that sets the pace. Like, oh shit, now I'm kind of tense. And then the next minute or two of a character waking up or taking a piss is not a big deal. Because now you're thinking, how is this crazy story going to affect this random guy? And then it's easier to get into.
Yeah, that's I like that, especially when TV shows do that. To get off topic real quick, one of my favorite TV shows on right now, the Alan Sorkin show, Newsroom. Yeah, that's how the second season started. And basically, one of the main characters is being interrogated, and you don't know why, you don't know what's happening, but then all of a sudden it goes back in time, and it starts a story from the beginning, laying the roots, so you can slowly find out exactly what led to this. And I like it when stories are developed that way. I'm a big fan.
Well, are you talking about where they'll show, like for instance in The Hangover, or there's been a ton of dramatic movies where they show a piece of the end and then flash all the way back and show you how they got there?
A little bit. Not necessarily the end, but a point in time where there's a situation occurring, but you know that they had to get there somehow, and then it goes back in time, obviously, and explains how they got there.
Like a crucial moment in time that greatly affects the characters, and it's basically like the meat and potatoes that or that crucial moment that captures the audience's attention easily.
Cop dramas, whether they be TV or film, do that all the time.
Yeah. That's why you always get sucked in, like the SVUs and whatnot. You just get sucked in. You're like, shit, I have to find out what happened.
I don't know. That actually reminds me of like this particular comedian I was watching a couple of days ago, and he was talking about SVU and how it's funny to watch those episodes because Ice-T, he's part of that unit, but they spend like a good portion of that show basically explaining to him the nature of the crime, when you would think that he would know it by now.
Right. Yeah.
It'll be like, Ice-T would be like, oh, so it's like, XYZ or something like that.
I know, and it's so, I hate, I don't take away anything from anyone who's gotten to where they are by doing what they do. A vaguer statement has never been stated before.
There you go.
But he's terrible.
Who's this?
Ice-T is he is terrible.
Right. Well, you're trying to explain to him about, about, like, say, I'm trying to think of, like, a crime right now, like, aside from murder, but that's too simple.
Yeah,
Ponzi, like a Ponzi scheme. You'd be like, they're explaining it to him, like either Maloney or Christopher Maloney or Marisha.
Who's not on it anymore.
So you're saying pocket knives are legal in this state that we live in?
Right, or like I was saying, getting back to a Ponzi scheme, so it's like, so it's like you basically telling me that I need to put my goal in this investment, but I'm not guaranteed it, but I don't know about it. That I'm not going to get it, a
Give
good
me the
investment.
gold.
I think it's even worse. I think it's even worse on a cast where the girl takes that role. And the reason is because there's certain shows that have an ego-driven main character, like a House or Mentalist or one of these, where you have it's over the top. It's a character that probably doesn't exist in that like it's a little bit fantastical.
Just weird, or
and then and then he's the fantastical one, but then you have the straight-age female like that's right by his side, but she's been like a member of the team or the force or whatever for 10 years, but whatever he says, she's like, huh? How did you come to that conclusion? Like, completely being led along by the hand, even though the job description does not say that.
Yeah.
Should not reflect that. Like, if this guy, like, died, would the police department fall apart? If Mentalist, or whatever. There's a lot of these characters out there.
The worst character is, on these cop shows, the worst and the best, if that makes any sense, is the David Caruso from CSI Miami.
What is that?
He'll it's the redheaded guy from CSI Miami.
No, I mean, what is his character?
Well, basically, he's one of the cops, right, the investigators, and he'll show up to a murder.
Are you saying the worst characters are redheaded?
No, that's the worst character. That's easily the worst character, but keep going, Joe.
He'll just show up to a crime scene. He usually crouches down. He's wearing sunglasses. And then he'll just look up to his partner and he'll say, "It looks like," he'll take off his glasses, "This guy missed his appointment."
Oh.
And then boom, the intro to the show starts. And it's just like, oh man, can you be cheesier than that?
Remember how they were
or if it's a club scene, it looks like this guy partied too hard.
Well, remember in Sarah Marshall, they were making fun of that, but then the actress who plays Sarah Marshall actually got on one of those shows in real life, like a couple of years later.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's a good gig. I'd love to have one of those. Are you kidding? Give me the cheesiest lines you have.
Right.
I would love that.
Oh, book 'em, Dano.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Imagine they do one with the Ariel Castro situation, and then the David Caruso says, "Dead giveaway."
Terrible. That's terrible.
Me and let's see what to get into next. Okay, let's talk about this. Me and Brian were kind of mentioning this based on we were talking about Pacific Rim last week, and we did like 20 minutes on the movie itself. But then
good rim job. Yeah.
What's it?
Good rim job. Yeah, that was a good film.
Pacific Rim job, or what else were we calling? Godzilla for douchebags.
Well, you were calling it that.
Which, you know what though? After I saw it, man, that movie was good. It was good. I can't say anything more. That movie was good. And weren't you saying that Godzilla? They were trying to tie Godzilla into that movie?
Well, yeah, we were speaking about it yesterday that they're going to come out with another Godzilla film next year, and it's going to be made. It's going to be distributed by Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures, that the production company that also made Pacific Rim, is producing this latest entry in the Godzilla franchise. There were rumors before that they were going to try and tie those two potential franchises together in the future, depending on the success of Pacific Rim. And I don't think that's going to happen. I would like for it to happen, but with these other new releases coming out and Pacific Rim debuting at 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
In its first weekend, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, Godzilla is like a radioactive creation of our own messing with stuff. So.
Well, yeah, right.
It would kind of be a cop out to say that Godzilla came from another world, like.
Right. Well, I guess they just wanted the idea just sounded cool to them, but like I said,
I don't think they should touch it because I'm a big fan of the 2000 Matthew Broderick version of Godzilla.
That was 98, 96.
98? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was old.
I remember that because I remember I got the CD. It had Madonna song.
The best one was that Puff Daddy song.
The Puff Daddy song and the Madonna song.
Right. He ripped the beats from Led Zeppelin.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's why I love it.
Oh yeah, Kashmir. That was pretty cool.
Right. That was the only time. And then you see Jimmy Page rocking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was cool. The movie wasn't. But I like the movie because of that.
I can't remember it. At all.
Yeah, it's not worth remembering.
Would you, if you were alive at that time, or if you could...
alive at what time, exactly?
That late 90s time. Would you rather see Star Wars Episode 1 or Godzilla?
Godzilla,
unfortunately. I mean, that's you're asking us to pick the lesser of two evils, or lesser of two shits.
Do you think that The Rock is going to try to become Godzilla in this next franchise reboot?
I mean, The Rock is just a franchise player. He could do it all at this point.
I think he's going to wait till the sequel so he could become Godzilla in Godzilla 2. He'll let the first one pass.
He can be placed in any action movie.
And it's just The Rock. Go see The Rock in whatever that's called.
It's really not since Hulk Hogan has there been such a polarizing figure that went from wrestling to movies. But Hulk Hogan's movies were shitty. Other than I liked Suburban Commando. That was a funny one.
What, you didn't like No Holds Bar?
You didn't like Mr. Nanny?
No Holds Barred was alright. Mr. Nanny, I think, Suburban Commando was my favorite.
And let's not forget was it Three Ninjas? Was it
High Noon at Mega Mountain?
At Mega Mountain.
They should just start putting The Rock's name into movies. Like they should call it Rock and Furious, or G.I. Rock, or what else? What else? What other franchise? Journey to the Center of the Rock.
Sounds like a porn, but who's keeping track?
Okay, but we're getting off track. What we were talking about was, we were talking today about having a character that's just completely there for the sake of being a side character or being a demographic character. But then we were also talking last week about Pacific Rim, and then me and Brian got off the phone, and we were talking about a bunch more stuff about Pacific Rim, one of those being there was only really like one girl in the whole cast.
Was she naked?
Yeah. No.
It was like a PG movie.
PG-13 film. Come on.
Oh.
But yeah, there's a lot of movies with only one girl in the whole cast.
Yeah, but that can work. I've seen several theatrical productions where there's been an all-female cast, and it just there's too much estrogen. There needs to be a balance. Not taking away anything from all-female casts, but all-male casts can work because guys are usually...
There's different types. You're right. You got the alpha, you got the beta. There's different shades.
Well, that's what I was kind of get into. Is there a terrible type mold that is cast for a female actress? Now, keep in mind, if there's only one female role in a movie, the female has to be much better to land that role. So, in general, you could say that you could make the assumption that actresses are more talented than your basic actor because you see the cream of the crop. However, because there's only one role, it's not like there's different female characters that could be played in a movie, so you're just playing the generic female character.
That's true. It's much harder.
And in the case of this particular film, it wasn't like she was window dressing. She wasn't there just to be there, just to look good. She actually had her own backstory. And had her own and had her own motives, which made sense. And it was and it drove the film for the most part. So I didn't have a problem with the fact that she was the only female character in that peace.
I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but it definitely presents a situation, especially with everyone trying to be skinny now, and have their actors be super skinny. That also takes away a lot of casts and a lot of types. I mean, come on, look at any old stuff. There might have been a big fat woman on the cast. There might have been someone else, a very skinny petite girl, and everyone could identify with someone else or even see another character as comic relief. But if all those jobs are going to males, the only job left for a female is to be a generic, like two-dimensional impression of a female in certain occasions. This case was.
Well, wasn't there a film that came out not too long ago about it was like a Glee type competition where it's like a bunch of girls, singing, and they had different types. You had the leader type, you had the bad girl from the wrong side of the tracks, and then there's Rebel Wilson, who's like there for comedy relief.
Yeah. That was Pitch Perfect. What was that? Pitch Perfect?
Yeah, I think you got it right. Yeah. So I mean, there's always exceptions to that you're presenting.
Yeah, I know. It's just it would be nice to see casts that are just instead of a girl cast, a guy cast. Like, come on, everyone's interconnected. We all work with each other. Sometimes it's better when there's different characters.
Well, that's what they're trying to present for the most part. At least that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it happens a lot though with fantasy movies. I think with like fantasy or
science fiction.
Yeah, it's like that dream girl stuff. Like, this is the only girl. This is the only girl in the movie, and this is the only one for me. You sort of thing.
I mean, if as I recall, it played the film itself as a live action anime, film. It was just, to me, it just screamed anime in terms of the setup and the characters that they had. They were all two dimensional, but they had their own little charm to them that I didn't get annoyed by their presence. So.
Well, you were saying something interesting about the birth of anime. You were saying what was it? It started around the time of World War II, or?
Well, I mean, in terms of I guess whatever animation that they had, which was more close to real life. I guess it started to change dramatically after Hiroshima was bombed and Nagasaki, and
really.
This is just speculation alone. How the devastation that they endured, kind of changed their style dramatically, where their expressions were heightened extremely, with the wide eyes and small mouths and whatnot,
Why do you?
And it just carried over into the medium of animation, television, and movies, and also comic books.
Wow.
I don't know why it did. It just, I think to me it just happened.
I think the features, as far as the characters are concerned, the big eyes and the smaller mouths, well, after they got bombed, is because they figured we better watch out and not say anything because we're going to get bombed again.
Do you think that maybe that atomic bomb was the original big Pokeball and that all the Pokemon jumped out when it?
Oh, jeez. I thought you weren't going to present that, but okay.
Hey, gotta catch them all.
It's kind of crazy. Like it's like a art form that's now transcended into a lot of countries for the style, and I guess there's some themes and elements that a lot of people could relate to, but it came from such a horrific event of complete city being wiped out in the blink of an eye. Like there is something very scary about the not being able to even have the chance to defend yourself. It's not even like David versus Goliath. It's no chance. You're vaporized instantly. Goodbye.
Right.
Well, that's what happens when you mess with America.
America has, man, I don't know. That's bad karma. I don't know.
No, I mean, listen, it was a retaliation strike. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's crazy time using those nuclear bombs.
Well, they wanted to end the war quickly. They Truman was president at the time, was being pressured. You know, I mean, we had the tools to make it, and you know, our boys were dying over there, and obviously at a rapid rate, you know, because it was like millions. I forgot how the death toll, but I know it was in the millions. So he figured, you know, if he dropped these 2 bombs, you know, that it would basically, you know, stop the bleeding immediately, you know.
Well, I also heard that they dropped it right before Russia was about to move in, and America didn't want Russia to take claim of the victory.
Really?
Because I guess in a way what happened was Europe expended a lot of resources fighting the Germans, and then America swooped in and kind of ended it. So America took a lot of the credit, and then all of a sudden the thing with Japan was now America was kind of getting expended fighting Japan, and and Russia was like, yeah, we're about to. They declared war on Japan like a day before that bomb dropped. So I think the American bomb drop response, at least in terms of timing, could have been a way for America to say, nope, you're not taking any credit, even a week's worth for this. And I think it had a lot with gearing up for the Cold War, and obviously North Korea and South Korea split from that point, and you know, America and Russia were allies but didn't trust each other. So that's always kind of weird to work with someone you don't trust.
Yeah.
All right, I'm putting you to sleep. Sorry about that.
Yes, I was folding a deck of cards. Sorry.
I guess let's talk about one more topic we were saying we're going to bring up, and it has to do, again, with Pacific Rim, but also just about any movie you see, and that is how you can tell when a director or a film crew or whatever cares about their material. How ego or aggression or teamwork can be shown on film. Like how you can see through the art and tell what was going on behind the scenes without really having known.
Well, we touched on this in the sense that Guillermo del Toro, the director of Pacific Rim, you know, he grew up with watching these monster films, and you can see the love of those films put into this recent incarnation. And you feel like it's genuine and it's not cheap, and it didn't feel rushed. Particularly with the creation of the monsters and the giant robots that were made, you know. And I was watching one of the featurettes where, you know, he had his animators, a team of animators, come up with various ideas, and the only rule that he gave them was like, just don't mention what it was based off of. You know what I mean? In other words, he didn't want them to tell him, oh, this robot was based off of like a design from a previous Gundam series or something like that. Okay. You know, so he was gonna take the best of both worlds and make it original, but he didn't want to feel like he was ripping off the previous incarnations, if that makes sense.
Or he didn't want to have it in his head to start overanalyzing and going back and seeing that material and thinking, oh, I don't want to be like this, I do want to be like this.
Right.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you have too many opinions, it waters things down. Yeah, he really, the movie should have been very silly. Pacific Rim should have been very silly. And the fact that it was good shows that, you're right, this person took a silly concept and said, I believe in this, and as a result, I'm going to make other people believe in it. Mm-hmm. And it's all leadership, creative leadership that came down from the top. Now, you look at Grown Ups, which currently has a 6 to 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but how much money has it made?
Oh, God, yeah, it's made a lot of money, but just in terms of putting quality into a movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Sandler. I like Adam Sandler movies and stuff like that, but, come on. The same amount, a minute of Pacific Rim costs the same amount as Grown Ups, and it's making the same amount of money in return because they're both blockbusters in a way, but come on, you could tell that one paid attention to detail and one half-heartedly got through a script that was thrown together.
Right. And I'm quite sure, a lot of it was improvised. They basically were just, hanging out on set. And they had like a script as, to, as a template for them to follow. But for the most part, I'm quite sure they were just, having fun on set, 99% of the time. So.
I think Larry David needs to take over all comedy writing.
Well, that new movie's coming out, Clear History on HBO.
What's that?
Larry David wrote it, I think, and he's in it. It's basically it's about the beginning of the like hybrid or electric car craze. And John Hamm is in it, and he's one of the investors. Larry David plays one of the investors of this electric car, and it's called Howard. And then Larry David freaks out that the name is Howard, and he pulls out his investment, but John Hamm, who is the other investor, goes through with it and winds up becoming a super billionaire, and Larry David doesn't get anything because he pulled out. So it's called Clear History, and then I guess they run into each other again at some point in the future. But it's going to premiere on Saturday on HBO, so I'm going to watch that.
Clear History.
Yeah.
I guess the lesson is don't pull out. You never know. You never know what's going to come of it.
I don't know. That's what I usually do. So it's been pretty good.
Congratulations. Right.
Want to share some personal stories?
No.
How about for another time?
Well, also look at a movie like Dark Knight. It had detail put into it because people were paid to put detail in because it was a mega movie. Dark Knight Returns.
Rises.
The
rumor is that
get your Batman straight, damn it.
Oh right, Returns was the cartoon. Rises, but the director at that point
Batman Returns was the other one.
The director, it was rumored that director didn't care too much about the project, even though there was a ton of people working on it.
Well, like I said, I just felt like the fight scenes were half-heartedly done and rushed. Particularly the final battle scene, with the cops versus the the terrorists. I think we discussed this in the sense that I was hoping that when Bane and Batman were fighting each other, it'll be like throngs of guys throwing themselves at these guys, i.e. the cops trying to stop Bane, terrorists trying to stop Batman, and yet these guys are so good that they can mop the floor with them easily and yet still go at it with each other. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt like, it was half-hearted. Like, I think he was trying to... It reminded me of Enter the Dragon in that final scene with Lee versus Han. I think that's what he was trying to go for, but I felt like it wasn't executed properly.
I guess it's just the easiest form to do a strongman competition, but the dangerous ground is who gets hyped about a fight between two equal-footed fighters. Like sometimes it's good to see skill versus will, or strength versus speed, or something like this.
Right.
And this was like a slugging contest, whereas a lot of fans were upset because it's not something that Batman would usually get into. Also, right. Batman wouldn't usually be seen as heroic. Batman is, if he's the Dark Knight, that means his life is to live in constant misery, and there is no happy ending. There is no ending for Batman. And he does this till he's broken down, and then he still does this.
Right. It's funny you should mention that. It's kind of, aesthetically, there's certain things that, that did work, and there's certain things that didn't work within the trilogy. Like in the first one where he's, standing on a porch, like by Gordon's home, he's telling him about the storm coming and all that kind of stuff. That actually works. But when he's like in hard light, getting to the second entry with him interrogating the Joker, it's kind of silly because it's like, all right, clearly that's a dude in the suit. I'm not seeing Batman. I'm seeing a guy in the suit. I just feel like, in my opinion, they should have just like covered him completely. Mouth also, where he just came across as a humanoid bat, or a bat with humanoid features, and that would have made him a hell of a lot more intimidating than, a guy in a suit just putting on a deep, gravelly voice.
Where are the drugs?
Case in point.
Where are they? It did get better. He did get a little better with the voice over the movies. But the first one, you remember Batman Begins, he didn't have that voice.
No, he didn't.
And there was only like one scene where he was Batman, I guess at the end, but he didn't have that voice at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he was smoking. Maybe he was smoking too many Newports.
Maybe that and it's the fiberglass. It's that and the fact, I guess, that once he became Batman, he realized he needed to actually disguise his voice because it's not like he was a nobody. He was a prominent figure in Gotham.
The other thing that's weird about that whole Batman thing, at least in how it's progressed over time and how movies get more elaborate and bigger budgets get put into movies, is like, okay, if this guy now has many hovercraft vehicles, state-of-the-art technology, it was a little more plausible when he just had a bunch of weapons and the Bat car, the Batmobile. But now It's like, okay, there's only a couple people on Earth who could afford these toys. And one of them has the same jawline as the most prominent man in the city. So, man, who could it be? It could be anyone. That's the thing. You know, there's a certain thing about someone putting on a mask, like, oh, they could be anyone. That's why they're a hero, because they could be anyone.
That makes it silly, which is why it's ridiculous. Like, if he is going to wear a mask like that, he has to stay in the shadows, or else it's not going to work at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I thought, it's silly, with him being in hard light. Particularly in the third entry where, he's like, he's like going up against his nemesis in broad daylight, which I understand because, time was of the essence. But aesthetically, it just didn't look right.
There's no reason to have spinning rims on a hovercraft or something like this.
I didn't see that. But
oh, you didn't? Okay. I saw the extended version.
Yeah, I must have missed that as well.
But like you were saying, George, I guess the point of Batman is to be a detective and to figure out how to stop someone. And in the third movie, I'm not sure how that works exactly.
There was no detecting going on. It was just basically, how the hell am I going to get out of this situation in this cave with a bad back?
It was like the third end all of a movie trilogy where Batman was the guy who was fighting.
Right. Yeah, because Batman's job. That's why he's a little bit of a underrated superhero in a lot of people's eyes, but then again, there's been so many reincarnations of him that's not the case. Because his job is to find a way to beat his enemies. So he will observe, will study, and then he'll find the weakness and exploit that weakness. And that didn't happen in the third one.
Right. There was a lot of things that were out of character in terms of not only Batman, but also Alfred basically leaving him like that. Because in the comic books, or in any media for that matter, Alfred has always been Batman's staunchest supporter through thick and thin, Yeah,
so he pays him, doesn't he? He walked out.
Yeah, right. Right, but I'm just saying, even, money was not the issue. I'm just saying, like, Bruce Wayne basically told him about his mission, and, I'm quite sure, Alfred and other mediums had reservations about him going through with this, but for the most part, he has always supported Batman in terms of his endeavors, no matter what, which I felt like in the third entry was kind of out of character when he just left him because he was tired of, doing the stuff that Bruce Wayne wanted him to do.
It was like Rocky 3, and he was Mickey, and Bane was Mr. T.
Yeah.
Bane was more like every Rocky villain rolled into one, more like.
Those big, hard punches. I liked when Bane climbed down the chain. That was cool. Quickly climbed down the chain.
just to kick his ass, right? You would think that Batman was able to get up by then, even though he got kicked off that rail or whatever the fuck that was, and you'd think he would get his balance by the time Bane, climbed down the chain, but he took the air out of that son of a bitch.
How did Batman get back to America? Like, I know he got out of that hole. But
well, you're assuming that wasn't in America, right? Was it ever stated that it wasn't in America?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like definitely in another country.
Because I saw it again recently. I mean, he's Bruce Wayne. He could just get a first-class ticket to anywhere.
But his assets were seized.
All right, I'm pretty sure he could afford like $1,000 ticket across.
But he just kind of showed up like there, like at a bridge.
Yeah, it was a little too convenient. Yeah.
Yeah.
The East had a weird ending, a little bit. That was the only weird thing about that movie, The East. The end was kind of, they did a lot of explaining. They kind of had like a climax, but then how you either have an old movie, which it was climax ending, or a new movie, which is climax and then like 10 to 15 minutes of ending. They put like a 20-minute ending, but packed it into a minute with like screenshots. Like, then this is what happened, and it left a lot of holes, which was weird because the movie was so good that it would have left you thinking anyway about the story, which is what a lot of good independent sort of movies do. But this one kind of had me thinking about the plot because they just jammed too much of it in there at the end. Like, you could do a lot of good building in a movie, and then you throw in a couple weird things at the end, and then everyone's kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think we're missing something when it comes to the end of that movie. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but it explains the protagonist helping out her fellow agents, but at the same time, is she in trouble with her employer? Is she not in trouble with her employer? Did she give the people that she was spying on up? Did she not give them up? You're not 100% sure, so it leaves you wondering.
All right. Well, okay. I guess that's it in terms of it wasn't like a big movie week. Me and Brian were both kind of saying like a week ago, like, we don't even know if we want to see anything.
Right.
And then we agreed on Red 2, and then we said screw that.
Right, and then also like the latest films like R.I.P.D. was getting terrible reviews.
Well, that's a shocker.
Yeah, I know. Basically, everyone was saying that it was like Men in Black, but instead of aliens, it's dealing with the undead. The two guys, Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges, were doing their interpretation of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones to poor effect.
When do you think this whole zombie craze is going to die down?
Not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. No.
It's very easy to.
It's been going on for a while.
It's such an easy thing to talk about vampires and zombies because you're making them instantly not human.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they're the enemy. And well, I guess we had talked last week. Me and Brian talked off air about going to see Red 2, and we decided against it because we figured we could rant on it without even having to see it.
Wise decision.
Well, do you remember that rant, Brian?
Well, it was something along the lines like if the Expendables was for, you see a bunch of old people, playing cowboys and Indians, and it's for like say our generation, then the Red franchise is for the geriatrics, the baby boomers, who are coming close to shitting on themselves. I'm sorry, but
Oh my God.
It is what it is.
So Red 2 is the Expendables made for old people by old people.
Exactly.
It's FUBU
of
old people.
FUBU. Yeah, exactly. It's the FUBU for old people. There you go.
It's for old people, but it's not for geriatrics. I mean, come on. Not geriatrics. That's our parents' generation. They might be older, but they're not geriatrics, not shitting themselves.
Don't worry. Wait, 20 years or so.
All right, in 20 years, then maybe there'll be a Red 6. By then, it'll be for geriatrics. But for now, it's not for geriatrics. Just for older people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going by the talent pool that they have in there. Like a Helen Mirren who's been acting forever, it seems, and Anthony Hopkins who's also in there. I'm just saying, like they have like these respectable actors, in this action flick,
Mm-hmm.
Juxtaposed with the 80s action stars in the Expendables, with Sly Stallone, or Schwarzenegger, and various other guys who do B-movie action films,
Yeah.
Brian, when was Red, the original Red, greenlit? Was it after Expendables? Like, this was a response to Expendables, right?
I want to say yes. I don't really have all the info off the top of my head, but I think it's interesting that they do have one guy that's a part of both franchises in the form of Bruce Willis.
True, yeah. Bruce Willis is entering a weird territory where he could just show up for a scene in a movie.
Right.
He did that in G.I. Joe as well. He was in a couple scenes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm doing that now in my career, but no one's noticing.
Oh.
Well, you have to be in the foreground, I think.
Yeah. Right. That's extra territory I'm talking about.
Looks like somebody needs a hug from 3,000 miles away.
Come and get some, big boy.
Yes, we are. I am in Venice, California. George is in Hollywood, California, and Brian's 3,000 miles away in Long Island, New York.
Somewhere in Long Island, New York.
We won't name the town because there might be people looking for.
By far the worst of the 3 locations.
And your hometown wasn't, or isn't? Sorry.
Well, it's besides the point. I know that Long Island is a stinky place.
Oh God. Yeah, this guy needs to get out more.
Okay. It was kind of weird because, me and George are from Queens, which is what Brian's referring to. I was just reading on Facebook that there's a guy that I guess I went to high school with. I'm not sure how I even know him on Facebook, but he said he was driving in Long Island and some guy flipped out on him on the road and started calling him a spoiled Long Island boy. And he got out of the car and got in the guy's face, and the guy's windows were rolled down. And he's like, "I'm from fucking Queens. I will end you. I will end you." The guy was scared. So, from someone from California's point of view, I imagine the accent all sounds the same, but when you're in these little regional places, town by town has like a pride effect.
Yeah. So you got to get that right, next time, Chris. I'm not going to hold it against you, let alone the people who are listening to this podcast going to hold it against you for now.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot. But in terms of like the latest releases, I'm surprised you guys didn't go see The Conjuring.
It comes out today.
Yes.
I was going to go see it this morning beforehand, but I had some stuff to do. I'm going to go see it tomorrow for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hope you can sleep well afterwards.
But here's you know what the weird thing about this Conjuring movie is? The only reason I want to see it is because of the good reviews. I've seen like a bunch of trailers for it and have not been scared at all by the trailers, but just the fact that it's a real horror movie that deals with maybe supernatural, it looks like horror. It doesn't look like a gore movie, which, is like great because there hasn't been a good one in a long time.
Right.
So I'm going to give it a chance. I really hope it's good. Me and George were talking. We might go see it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to see that?
I'll think about it.
There's a couple.
Gee, don't do us any favors.
There's a really good movie coming out.
I'm not good with favors.
There's a movie coming out. There's a couple good indie sort of movies coming out. There's a documentary called The Act of Killing.
Oh, no thanks.
Which it takes this guy who's like one of these African militia / gang leaders who is probably responsible for like thousands of millions of deaths.
Consider him a genocide enthusiast.
Yeah. So this guy has gotten off scot-free, as these guys do, because, as he says, the war crimes is defined by the winner of a war.
Mm-hmm.
So in his point of view, yeah, you could call him a war criminal, but he's still around doing his own thing. So it starts off as a documentary just interviewing him on the conflicts and what happened and what he did in his life and as a military commander. And it gets into this artistic thing where they have him make a play or shoot a movie recreating the murderous scenes that he did and then watch the movie himself.
Wow. Yeah, that's a nice little social experiment.
And he was like, he sits down and watches the scenes that he directed of retellings of like killings he did, and he's like, this is uncomfortable to watch. I can't believe I did things like this.
Yeah, because when you're in the moment, you don't realize anything. Imagine all the crazy, stupid things we've done. I mean, I'm not comparing it to any sort of war crime, or anything like that, or any sort of genocide either. But we've equally, the three of us, I know for a fact, have done very, very stupid things. So imagine recreating that and then watching it. It would be terrible to watch ourselves or what we did back after we knew that, I mean, you know, it happened, whatever, and then watching it back knowing it was stupid doing it in the first place or quote unquote bad. Now watching it back would be very, very uncomfortable, and you would probably think twice about how you're perceived and how you'd want to act again the next time. I wish I had a camera following me all the time because I do a ton of stupid shit. Maybe if I was watching it, I would stop.
What, have you done anything stupid today?
I'm going to.
What are you going to do?
That's for a later podcast.
I'm wondering, did anything? All right, so that was.
I actually am going to do something very stupid, but that's something for a later conversation.
Well, hopefully we do have 3 hosts next time.
You most likely will.
Okay. There's another. Well, we talked about movies and we talked about the news. I mean, obviously the news took precedence this week and it wasn't a big movie week, but did anything cool happen to any of you guys personally that you want to share?
Nope. That's why I did this podcast.
Anything new? Let's see.
Yeah, Brian, these are real life stories, so I guess you got to check out now.
Yeah.
Oh, don't mind if I do.
Other than, I mean, I watch a lot of television. I'm a big television guy, but like sort of good television. Right now, basically every Sunday, there are 4 hours of programming that I watch that all air on Sunday. 2 of which I sort of fell out of love with. The 2 being True Blood and Dexter. I've fallen out of love and I've been disinterested in these 2 shows for the past several seasons. Now, keep in mind, Dexter was better last year. It kind of drew me back in, but still, at this point, I'm kind of over the whole secret serial killer type of vengeful vigilante guy. I'm kind of over that. And True Blood, it's lost its sexiness. It's lost its appeal. The reason why I got into True Blood in the first place, because it was a sexy show. It was just like, oh shit. I understand the vampire aspect, but I've never seen them in this light, other than like maybe like a Twilight type of movie, which I've never seen. So those 2 shows I just watch because I've been watching them for the past 5-6 years of my life, and because I'm loyal to a fault, I won't stop until they're over. But the other
is that how you do it, George? You don't stop till it's over?
Until it's dead and buried. I'm gonna Zimmerman these shows.
Stop it.
Don't say that. What's wrong with you?
So the other 2 shows that I am watching and I happen to love are Newsroom, which we discussed briefly before, and a new show which aired 3 weeks ago, its debut, Ray Donovan, starring Liev Schreiber and Jon Voight on Showtime.
How is that?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Well, personally, I think Liev Schreiber is one of the best actors of our generation, hands down. The stage, TV, film, hands down, he's someone I aspire to. And he played Sabretooth in one of the X-Men movies, which is pretty fucking cool if you ask me. But it's a guy from Boston. It's a family from Boston, basically, that have come out here to LA. And the guy, the lead character played by Liev Schreiber, is sort of a Hollywood fixer type. Yeah. But he's more of a blackmailer than a fixer. He takes bad situations and he fixes them by taking other people's misfortunes and forcing them to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like for example, I'm going to give away a little bit of a plot line here, but it's in the first episode. It happens right away. You won't be missing much. The show opens up with an athlete of some sort waking up in bed with a dead hooker or some girl, could be a hooker, I'm not 100% sure, dead of a drug overdose. So he calls up Ray Donovan, and the guy's freaking out, and Ray Donovan tells him, hey, relax, I know what I'm doing, I'll take care of this. So the lawyer that Ray Donovan basically works for calls him up and tells him that one of his other clients, who's a big Hollywood actor, got arrested for picking up a tranny on Sunset Boulevard.
That happens.
Yeah, and since I basically live off of Sunset Boulevard, I've encountered many of these trannies, and they're very unpleasant. So I don't know why anyone would want to have anything to do with them. So Ray Donovan goes over to the hotel where the athlete is with the dead hooker, but beforehand he picks up the big Hollywood celebrity from the lawyer's office. He brings him to the hotel and he calls the media and he says, "All right, this Hollywood actor was found in the hotel with a dead woman in his bed." And then right. he gets the athlete out of there so nobody knows. And once the media starts reporting that the Hollywood actor is with a dead girl in bed instead of being found with a tranny, the rumors of him being gay are done, and all there is left is a drug problem that he goes to rehab for a month. It's done, and
that's pretty smart. I mean,
his movie career resumes. Terrible. Right, that's how it works.
So win-win scenario for both parties. Or what?
It's like picking whatever the public's least offended by in the moment.
Yeah. Okay. At least that certain situation. So it's pretty good. John Voight plays his father, who has been in jail for the past 20 years, and he gets out. And for some reason, it hasn't been explained yet, he comes back out to Hollywood. Nobody wants him there. Not Ray Donovan, not all the people that are associated with him, not the actors that know him. Everybody is scared that he's back in town. Mm-hmm. And that hasn't been explained yet, so that's I'm very interested. It's got me pulled in. The acting is fantastic. The two guys that play Liev Schreiber's brothers are also great. It's really good. It's a very, very good show. Highly recommended. And hopefully it just gets better because I need something to occupy my brain so I don't think into oblivion.
Well, yeah, let's hope we could all get to that level where everyone in Hollywood is afraid of us and doesn't want to have anything to do with us.
You never know. Hopefully I can become a part of the Hollywood scene first before anyone starts to be afraid of me.
They, I guess they just released, I can't believe I even gave this any time of day, but I was driving home from work and I was just flipping through the radio stations, and this radio station's like, listen to Kanye West. They have audio of him after he interrupted Taylor Swift. And it's him just going off on a rant. And he has like a bunch of people around him like completely hyping him up to the moon about how he was acting wild at the whatever stupid award show that was.
Yeah, you know the thing is with Kanye West at this point in his career, I'm a big Kanye West fan. A lot of people don't like him. They say that he's very he's an egomaniac, yeah, whatever. To be famous and to be that good, you have to be an egomaniac and believe in yourself. So that argument is thrown out the window in my eyes. Mm-hmm. But his new album, it's called Black Skinhead. And I heard it the other day. And it's not very mainstream. It's very of him doing whatever he wants to do. There's not a lot of singles on it, if any. There might be one or two songs that can be released on the radio and have like a poppy feel to it. It's not a poppy sort of album.
Actually, one of them was used in a trailer for Scorsese's latest film,
Wolf of
Wall Street. Yeah.
Okay, that's where I knew one of the songs from. Okay, so a lot of these songs are talking about fuck this and fuck that, and you're in the Hamptons and I'm fucking your wife while you're sipping champagne in the Hamptons, blah, 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 and how the people that are all the rich people think they know what's going on, but he's behind the scenes and really knows what's going on. It's that kind of vibe to it. Meanwhile, at this point in his career, he's the guy in the Hamptons.
Right.
Is he not? He's reached such fame. He had a baby with Kim Kardashian, for Christ's sake. He's the one that he's making fun of. He's making fun of himself.
Well, that's how anger works. There is a certain inconsistency with these types of folks, and remember who, famous comedian from the 80s who was good for being brash and shit talking, but talked too much shit to too many people who got offended. And now he's having trouble. Once your prime dies down, you're stuck with the connections that you made or burned. I don't know if this guy just does things for attention like this, but look at Andrew Dice Clay. He's having. It's a fine line.
I don't think you can relate that.
It's a fine line with people thinking you're an asshole
But I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think that Dice Clay peaked, and he never changed his game up, and people got bored of it.
Right. He also, and now remember also Dice Clay, you know, he stole from, you know, Kinnison, and Kinnison got really pissed off. You know, I'm just saying, like, you know, Dice Clay had like I would say maybe 1 or 2 good years where, you know, he was like selling out arenas for the most part.
That was pretty epic.
He just dropped off. You know.
But remember, you know, that brash style, people do drop off. People get bored of that.
Right.
But you know what? Yeah. People get bored of it when you stop being good at what you do.
Right.
I think that.
When it comes to comedy, you know, it's just like being an athlete. You gotta, or you know, your timing has to be on point. And if you're not practicing, you know, your time is going to be off, and you know the jokes that you're saying, even though they may be funny, you're just not delivering it the right way, and that's why it may not come off as funny to the audience. You know, that's a possibility. You know, in terms of what happened with him.
There is a certain inconsistency though with this Kanye West guy, because when he did that thing with George Bush and saying George Bush doesn't care about black people, that was hysterical. I thought that was great.
That was funny.
However, and keep in mind, like that was the right moment to say a hysterical thing that also was poignant and regarded a real life situation that was going on down there with Hurricane Katrina. Now, flash forward a couple of years, you now have someone who rushes a Hollywood stage at a pop awards show to say the following statement. Basically, to say this: my boss's wife should have won this award. She's the coolest.
Well, I mean, there was some truth to what he was saying. I know it wasn't the right time for him to say it, but he was saying, come on. He was delivering.
In whose opinion?
I mean, it was I'm quite sure it was the general consensus. I mean, come on. Her video at that time, in that particular year, was the most imitated, spoofed video of the year.
Which one was it?
That was that Put a Ring on It by Beyonce Knowles. You know, everybody was doing like a video to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was terrible.
So you would think that a video that iconic or that big, that, you know, spawning a lot of imitators, would be video of the year. You know, so he wasn't wrong, but he just picked the wrong venue to vent.
But regardless, it's a pop show, so you completely turned yourself from someone who was doing things that had a cultural relevance to now a nonsense Hollywood activity, which is the case of people who come out here and get a little too into Hollywood and this lifestyle and the scene. They get sick of it, but they still participate in it.
Chris, the Hollywood is nonsensical in itself.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, of course, I understand that, but come on, it's like I'm all for doing like a brash thing, like, okay, you're gonna rush the stage, I get that. That's like a balls out move. Okay, cool. You're gonna rush the stage to hype up your boss's wife?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know which one is worse, like that or like Aubrey Plaza, like, you know, bum rushing the stage to take Will Ferrell's like MTV Movie Award Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, she did that recently at the last ceremony or telecast, you know, and she had no reason to do it. I thought that kind of came off as kind of stupid, more so than what Kanye was doing, you know.
Unfortunately, sort of stay on an aspect of this topic, but move on because these rappers are all nuts. Speaking of award shows, did you see House of Cards got nominated for an Emmy or two?
Yes, I did hear about that. Kevin Spacey got nominated, and who else got nominated?
I'm not sure. I just saw Kevin Spacey. I didn't see anything else, but I know there's more than one nomination. Now that's a big deal, man, because that's the first show. It's an online show.
Right. Yeah.
Right. How does that work? Yeah. Can you get? Is that even considered television?
No.
Well, it is technically cable. right?
Right.
It's a paid service.
It's paid service. It's through Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even Redbox. It's through. It's like saying, you only get our shows through Blockbuster or something like that. And in this case,
I guess HBO's been doing that for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
But the game is rapidly changing in terms of the landscape of television, and in terms of like the content that's being put out there nowadays. I mean, in terms of like prime time, cop shows, doctor shows, lawyer shows, those are not going to go anywhere.
No, those are the mainstays. There are always going to be new versions of those because people love that stuff.
Right. But like I tip my hat to like AMC and even Netflix for like they'll take original content that's like so out of left field and they're able to get like compelling story or tell compelling stories from these original materials.
Exactly. Yeah, we're also seeing a trend where a Hollywood star gets on a project where they're the lead of it, and it's like even on Fox, Kevin Bacon was in The Following this year.
Right.
And it's like a Hollywood star, and that's all you need, and you got a show. And instead of starring in a movie, you star in at least a signed year of a show.
Which is good and bad. Good for the viewer, bad for artists like me and Brian, if you consider yourself an artist, I guess.
Right, because like those the big stars, they already have a following. I'm just saying they have a following, and those who saw them on the big screen, they're like, oh, he's going to be doing a TV show. Yeah, I'm going to go watch that. Those are guaranteed successes for the most part. And I'm quite sure House of Cards, starring Kevin Spacey, was no different.
And kudos to him; he did a fantastic job. The one thing I saw the whole thing like in a day or two. And it was he basically just plays an evil dick, but it's a complete mental game he's playing, so it's almost like he's playing chess with the people around him. And keep in mind, the people around him are not much better, so there's no real likable characters, so you don't really care what happens to them, so it's kind of just watching how he pushes the pawns around in a way.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's really... I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was
interesting, kind of mature theme. Really cool, and he's basically like an animal, but shows how the inside of someone could be an animal, and the outside they could be very friendly and stuff like that.
Well, the tone is set from the first 15 seconds of that show taking off, from the very first episode.
That was another graphic first scene.
The first scene of the episode, a dog gets hit by a car outside of Kevin Spacey's house. He comes outside with one of his bodyguards or whatever because he's a congressman, so he has protection always. Mm-hmm. And when he goes to the dog with the bodyguard, he tells the bodyguard, go call somebody. And the dog is still alive, but obviously in pain. He's not going to survive. So what does he do? He snaps the dog's neck right there, and showing immediately what type of person this guy is. Like he's just very calm the entire time. He didn't even flinch. Very calm. Very cool, very collected, but at the same time, he will kill if he has to.
Yeah, we felt it at the pound that day.
Yeah.
And that should conclude. I think that concludes it for us. I mean, we can get into the Emmy talk like for another time.
Yeah, sure. We'll leave some stuff. When are the Emmys?
I'm not sure. I should know.
It's not in the next week. Like it's not.
No.
No, the nominations just came out, so. I don't know, actually.
Hey, speaking of Netflix, did you see that? You know how they always put an original series whenever they do something like that, and it says on Arrested Development, an original series.
Well, it came out again on Netflix.
But now it says an original Netflix series, Arrested Development.
Yeah, technically now it is because the new season is originally on Netflix. The new season.
I see.
Yeah, so I guess they can get away with saying that.
Did you guys see that at all?
I've never seen it. I've heard excellent things about it from a lot of people, but I've never watched it. I know about the season in general, like Arrested Development in general.
I tried to get through a couple episodes. It was
hard to watch.
There was more moments where you were like, "Wow, that's fucked up," than like laugh out loud moments. Which I guess some people find more funny than I do, but one thing is true, that now with these seasons being released all at the same time, it's not just about certain episodes. These can be viewed as like a mini film, like all pieced together.
Yeah, a 9-hour film.
Kind of crazy.
I know.
Well,
which we could get into it more for another time.
Well, what you got big plans to go out tonight, Brian? I know it's late on the East Coast.
Oh, it's very late on the East Coast.
All right. So I guess that wraps it up. I am Chris.
I'm Brian.
This is George.
And we have been shooting the ish. We'll catch you next week.
Take it easy.
Deuces.
You've been listening to Shooting